Hi, welcome to our week 2 for Introduction to Meetings, Incentives, Conferences, and Events Management. So today we'll be discussing on managing events, design, operation, and HR or human resources. So the topics that we'll be discussing would be managing event projects, event design and projects, event operation, managing human resource in events. So our outcome, we should be learning to relate event management to conventional event planning theories and practices, to develop an understanding of events design as the production of experiences rather than the management of staging elements, to appreciate the complexities of managing event employees and volunteers. So, events are considered projects. Why? Because it has an end and a beginning, and they usually end at a certain time. So therefore they have a limited duration. They require a degree of coordination of task towards goals, as we've defined with our previous meeting. Usually have a fixed budget and have a unique occurrences. So each event requires a combination of the management functions. They are different from most business processes in that they do not generally exhibit the ordinary day-to-day processes of the most organization. So they're very unique. So you could see here in the slides the characteristics of events as projects. So at the center of the event, you would see a different branch of duties and responsibilities. You would need a leadership team. Maybe some of the employees or the team would have a one-time task only, a very specific task just for that particular event. You have cross functionality, wherein some of the leadership might be also the stage manager, some of them might be also the accountant. So you will also have sub teams among your main team. And then it also has a life cycle. It has a beginning and an end. And of course, most importantly, there's a budget. Now, if you look at this illustration, it's the event project life cycle. So you would see here two axes, which is the activity and the timeline. And then you would see the amount of activity being exerted at a specific time and a specific phase. So you would see here during the initiation phase, this is the activity, and the planning stage, which is the most activity there is in an event, and then implementation, lessons, and then during the event it heightens again, and then there's closure. Then this is the end of your event. Next, we have perspectives on project management. When considering how to apply project management to events, a project leader should consider their overall perspective. So if you're the leader, you have to have a lot of hats that you should wear. You should look at your system, how leadership is being run, what are the tasks being given, what are the projects, mini projects among one of the big projects, what are the transactions being done, and then who are the stakeholders. So in organizing an event, you would have a functional event organization. These are types of event organization: a project-led event organization, and then you have a matrix event organization. Similarly to this is a function event organization, wherein you have an event coordinator on top, and then you have sub-coordinators per category or per division, if you might want to call it, or department maybe. Like for this example, you have the event planning coordinator, which is in charge of the art designer, catering, menu planner. And then during the operations, you have the light supervisor. This is normally the one in charge of the day of the event. And then you have administrator. You have the marketing, the purchasing assistant, payroll, IT. They're usually called the back end support, the event administration. So this is a type of functional event organization. Now, if you look at this slide, this is the event planning process. So you would see here like a flow chart wherein an event should have an objective. Every event starts with an objective, and then with that objective you would generate an idea or ideas. One of the practices being done here is brainstorming, wherein you put a group of people who would think of a concept maybe for your business, or for your event, and then you screen what are the best, what you think is best for the event, and then you draft a plan. Then you try to do an analysis of the external and internal factors, and then you create a plan. This is the operation. These three are one of the main operations, or three of the main operations of an event: the financial plan, operational plan, and the marketing plan. And then down to the implementation, and then organization and preparation, and then you create your legacy. Legacy because it's already an event, the end of an event after implementing it. Now, what are stakeholders and the requirements and needs? Stakeholders normally are people who have a stake on your event. So a stakeholder analysis then is the number of parties affected by the event's activities. So this slide is just telling us what are the impacts of that each stakeholder has a different impact or a different stake at the event, whether they're participating or not. For example, communities that are near the event has a stake on that event also. Next is setting objectives. Objectives are meant to measure the performance of an event. So it converts vision to a specific target that are quantifiable, measurable, and deadline driven. So two objectives of events management are normally strategic and financial. Financial meaning objectives are directed towards financial performance. I want to earn 1 million with this event. Strategic means improving the competitive vitality and future of business position. This event is intended for brand awareness so that a lot of people will know my brand. So that's a strategic objective. Now in setting I'm sure this is not new to you, in setting an objective with an event, it should be smart event objective setting. So it should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound or timely. So when you break down the resource structure for an event, you have people, the facilities that you're going to use in the event, the equipment, finance or financial, and then what are the materials that you will use for this event. Now, you have here in this slide the event project evaluation cycle, how you could evaluate your event. So once you set, on top, of course, is setting the event objective. Once you have that objective, you can now measure your performance based on that objective. And then compare it with your plan measure. Because during your planning phase, I'm sure you've set measures for success or metrics for success. And then you take corrective action once that goals or that metrics are not being met. So you take corrective action and then you set an objective again. Now, this is one of the common project monitoring tools that are used out there. It's called the Gantt chart. So as you can see here, I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with this. These are the Gantt chart shows you what tasks are going to be conducted here on the left side, and then you have the timeline here and what is the timeline in completing this task. For example, the concept initiation, you have 2 days for it. There are different types of Gantt chart there if you Google it, but this one is a common one. So you have a term there, project crashing. In events, it refers to speeding up the delivery of the process. So for example, design brief is 10 days, but I want to crash it and make it into 8 days only so that I could move some of this here and hasten the process for other, or make way for other projects or other activities. So events design and production. So event design is simply referring to the mental creation of an event before it takes place. It's like your dream for this particular event. And then production therefore refers to the subsequent action of manufacturing or engineering the event. It's delivery based on its initial design. So event as design experiences. Events as part of the growing experience economy. So as I would always mention, events is equals to experience. You just do not do an event just for an activity, but creating a lasting experience for your participant. Just like what this slide is saying. So in designing an event, you have 3 stages. The concept and the theme, your main design, and then putting up your logistics or your resources. So in conceptualizing an event, you have the 5, we call this the 5 W's. So you ask during the conception or initial planning of the event, why must you hold this event? Who will be the stakeholders for this event? When will the event be held? Where will the event be held? What is the event product that is being developed and presented? Now, when you say an event theme, it is a unifying idea or concept which gives meaning to the event, or is the object of celebration or commemoration. If this event is celebrating when you were given life on this earth, then it's a birthday theme. And if you want to put another theme to that, you could probably think of ways how you could celebrate this memorable day by going to your favorite beach, for example. So that's a theme, a beach theme. So another term being introduced is experience-scape. So there is no such thing as an artificial experience. Every experience created within an individual is real, whether the stimuli be neutral or simulated. So because we're in the business of providing the best experience, we should know how, or the anatomy of providing a good experience. So right here in this diagram, you have a product, for example. What is the service that comes or should come with the product? And how would you want your customers to feel upon purchasing that product? Same with an event. How would you want your customers to feel after or during the event? Okay. So event operations. So it is the operational planning consists of a set of plans for each key aspects of managing the event. as stated here. It is now operationally deploying or executing your event based on what you've planned. So these are the key areas for managing event operation. Now, in every event operation management, normally you all have this. First is finance. You have health, safety, and risk. You have the human resources, the logistics, legal environment, and marketing. Okay, normally when you deal with suppliers or when you do an event, you have to deal with third-party companies. What is an example of a third-party company? For example, a caterer. A caterer so that you could provide food, you could provide refreshments for your guests in the event. And normally, when you have third-party providers, you have contracts. So, as stated here, a contract is the documentation of the relationship between the event and various stakeholders. What we have here on the right side are some of the elements of a contract. So you have the parties, which means who is involved in this contract. You have the offer. You have what are the considerations for this contract. And then what are the terms of acceptance. The terms of acceptance, for example, is you should pay 50% now and then 50% after the event. That's one of the acceptance terms. Then you have the clauses. Clauses are also part of the contract that is stipulated specially in case of this. For example, in case of cancellation, what is the clause? In case of force majeure or the act of God, or for example, there was a pandemic, as what is being realized now, there's a pandemic, so most of the events were canceled. There should be in the contract stated there a force majeure. Billing. This normally includes finances. How would the terms of payment be? Insurance, if there is. Indemnification. This means the protection of the contract signatory against losses incurred by the event. So, for example, you're leasing a venue and because of a guest, something broke, and then it states there that there's that you should pay for it. Then there should be a clause that says there for that particular event or particular incident. Now you have the liability clause also, which is also connected with indemnification. What are your liabilities as a venue partner and as an event organizer? So looking at this model, you have the supplier tendering process. So normally, this is how you get quotations or proposals from your suppliers. So you could source out different suppliers to create the best experience for your event. So your request for proposal, suppliers' proposals are received. So as you go through this, you would have procurement for the process or the service, and then they would provide you the service for that event, and then they would be part of your event evaluation. Now, if you look at this, you have the event logistics, the movement of products and resources. So once you get to know what you need for your product or your event, then you have to list all of them so that you could find the appropriate supplier or supply. You have the customer logistics, for example, you have ticketing there, you have transport, accommodation. Now for venue, of course, do you need food and beverage? Do you have for example, emergency plans if something happens? Then we have in this slide we have the key areas of venue logistics. So here are some questions that you could ask. Will the audience like the venue? Do they have a clear sight of the stage? What facilities are available? How large is the site? See? Am I accounting all of the VIPs? So these are key areas of venue logistics. Then for site planning, these are the things, this illustration shows you the things what are important when it comes to site planning. For example, security points. And then the food and beverage areas, where will they be placed? Are there first aid and emergency exits if there are emergency? Do you have backstage areas including equipment storage for artists and changing room? So these are some of the factors that you need to take into consideration when you do site planning. Now you have the key areas of customer logistics. You have the ticketing, or how will people buy your event or go to your event or purchase your event. Do you have what transport they should use? Are they bringing their own, or one will be provided for them? What is the queuing? Will there be a line there, or you just have to show your QR code? And then do they need accommodation after this event? Now, if you're doing a planning folder, you should have these components in your folder: health and safety, venue, production, and then the general contents. This shows you the what is inside that folder or that particular category. This is an example of an event layout. It's the Treston Multipurpose Hall. You can see here how it is blocked and how each component is carefully planned and placed, where the stage will be, where the booths will be. Lastly is human resource challenge. Because you are dealing with people, there would be challenges in terms of human resources. So here are some of the challenges, especially when dealing with events. So this is about it for this session. I'll see you next session for week